everyone. Let's start healing. I'm Adrianne Murchison, and welcome to episode 85 of the Let's Start Healing podcast. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. I have taken a moment to come to you with this podcast. Much has happened since the last episode. We've had 2 mass shootings. One was in my hometown of Buffalo, New York, and one was in Uvalde, Texas. While we seem so divisive in this world, I think many of us know that we are evolving. We are much further, I think, in our compassion for each other and our connectedness and our oneness than we were 2 years ago, I believe, than we were 3 years ago, certainly in 2019. I think that we've come a long way, but what we're experiencing now is it's just unreal for my lifetime, for me. 2 years ago, we were in the heat of COVID, and we were trying to decide, many of us were trying to decide, is it okay to go to the beach? We don't dare go to a restaurant, or do we? What should we do? We want to get back to what we call normal as quickly as possible. And here we are 2 years later, and while we're still experiencing this pandemic, it has eased in a great way compared to 2 years ago. But for many, we're still trying to decide, is it okay to go to a restaurant? Is it okay to go to the beach? Is it okay to go to a concert? Not because of COVID, but for fear of a mass shooting. I have heard so many people say that their kids can't go to the mall by themselves. They're just not going to let their teenage child just go to the beach with friends. It is something, these times that we are in. And I'm going to say that if you or I think that we are only going to get through these times by addressing mental illness and addressing these guns, which need to be addressed, we have to do something about these weapons that these gunmen are using, and we have to do something about mental illness. But if we think that that is the answer solely to what is going on, then we have fallen for some kind of an okie doke. We really have. We really have. What we have to deal with is what is driving someone to make a decision that they are going to pick up a weapon that they use in war, and they are going to go and kill innocent children, that they're going to drive hours to a Black community and just shoot up a grocery store and the people in it. What makes a person do that? One of my friends was saying to me that the 2 gunmen, the one in Buffalo and the one in Uvalde, both had dead eyes. And they were saying that, there's a connection between those 2 because they both had dead eyes. Well, you have to have a deadness inside of you to carry something like that out. You have to turn something off. You have to disconnect from who you are to do something like that. And that is much bigger than mental illness. We cannot take everything that happens and sum it up to mental illness in the sense of there's just some loose wire. There's a whole range when it comes to mental health, and range is an understatement. But what is getting to me and what I feel that we all need to do, let me backtrack for a second. Let me say this. I used to say 25, 30 years ago, I used to say to people really close to me, I really want to make a difference in this world. That was just something that was so important to me. I wanted to do something really good and impactful and really, really make a difference in this world. And I thought that for so many years. And what I realized is the way to make a difference in this world is one person at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time. The way to make a difference in this world is to be the best person that I can possibly be. The way to make a difference is to deal with my own baggage, with my own shit. That's how we all make a difference in this world. If I have some kind of an emotional issue, if I'm feeling some kind of pain, well, it's my responsibility to heal that pain and to not go and project that onto other people. That's all of our responsibility, to deal with our own shit. And pardon me, this is a spiritual podcast, and I don't want to go there and, swear up and down, but I want to be real. We got to deal with our own shit. And we also have to communicate with the people in our lives. We have to stop this resistance to talking about things that make other people uncomfortable. If we see a loved one is in some kind of trouble, some kind of emotional trouble, some kind of pain, some kind of darkness, if we see that, we have to address it with compassion, with love, but we have to address it. One of my friends says, you like to communicate. You like people who like to be open and, like to talk. Well, communication is not a bad word. Communication leads to healing. A lack of communication leads to internalizing. Even with ourselves, a lack of addressing things that we need to address, even if it's privately. Not doing that, it snowballs and it gets greater and greater. And then we start thinking, making assumptions about people, about situations that are not true. The one thing that I do sometimes when I can go into a space where I'm really worried about something, I start to remember, and I'm so convinced that something is the way that I think it is. And then I try to get myself to remember that I feel so strongly about this because this thought originated with me. This slant that I put on this originated with me. I own it. I own this thought, so I believe it to be true. That's my ego. It doesn't mean that it's true. But we've got to start being accountable to ourselves and to other people. This whole thing, this whole time that we're in right now, since the beginning of COVID, where we are talking about, are you okay? Or I'm not okay. That's a big deal. That's a big, big deal. I just don't know what kind of people we are if we are capable of letting a mass shooter be inside a classroom of children and being lined up outside of a classroom with guns and being law enforcement and not going inside. That is something I just cannot comprehend. I can't comprehend it. We have this idea that we're so different. We're all so different. We engage with people who are different races, who are different ages, different sexualities, and there's just judgment around everything. Everything. I just got finished working on a story about police shootings and the anniversary of the death of George Floyd. And may be hard for me to be impartial because I worked on the story, but the reaction to the story that I've been getting is not based on what is on the page. It's not based on the words in the story from my perspective. The negative reaction that I have been getting from facts that are laid out in the story are based on beliefs. Like we're not even looking at each other with compassion. We're putting our beliefs first. We're looking through the eyes of our beliefs. And if we're not looking through love, therein lies the problem. If I'm looking at you with attack from my belief system, then I have a problem that I need to address. And if someone sees that I have this problem where I'm in a space of attacking and I'm in a space of judgment, then I'm not okay. And I need the reassurance of love. I'm saying this as an example. We've got to do something. I do believe that we have evolved so much in this world in the last 2 years, and I'm going to speak to that in a second, but we've got to do something. We cannot continue like this. We cannot continue like this. We can't. And I think that so much of what we're seeing in politics and in this crime of mass shootings is a result of people who think that they're not going to exist anymore. They're going to become irrelevant. Perhaps some people think that the attention that is on Black people and people of color and justice and equity means a power shift. And what happens to people who are not of color? What's going to happen? Am I going to lose what I have? Am I going to no longer have the power that I have? That is what I think some people worry about. And so they do such things as try to make abortion illegal. I mean, I know that's a whole nother topic, but there is no way in the world, I believe, that lawmakers who want to make abortion illegal and who are making it, in fact, illegal, give a damn about a baby. I really don't think so. I really don't think so. It's about power and the fear of losing it. And there are plenty of people out in the world who are not evolving and who are clinging to what they have so tightly that they're committing mass shootings, or they feel disenfranchised. They're afraid of losing what they have. They fear that they have no future because they'll be irrelevant. There are plenty of people out there like that, but there's even more who are about love and compassion and equity and equality. And those who are about that have to get up off our behinds. We have to engage. We cannot be inactive. We have to start by being the best person that we can be, figure out what that looks like, and we've got to do something about this. If it's just about communication, I've gotten these negative emails about this article that I said I wrote, just nasty emails. And one person who seems to have opinions that are different from mine, and he seems to convey this to me, and based on his email, I would say that's true, probably. But at the same time, sent a note and said, let's talk. Let's have a conversation. And assuming this is a legitimate email is something I'm so willing to do. So willing to have a conversation. We can talk about our differences without attack. When I say we, I mean all of us. We can talk about our differences without attack and hostility. Because when it's all said and done, we want to be safe. We want our loved ones to be safe. We want to have peaceful, content, happy, productive lives. Every last one of us. We actually do have more in common than we think. And when we remove the layers of judgment that we have about a whole host of things, when we set that aside, okay, I have a judgment about this kind of a person. And whenever this person shows up with these characteristics, then I know that this is what's going to happen. Well, if I can just, all right, I think that, let me set that aside. Let me set that aside just for a moment. Or whenever I see this person, I know this is how they're going to act. And that just rubs me the wrong way. Just don't like it. I don't like that person. They have a bad attitude. Well, all right, that's the way that is. Let me just set that aside just for a couple minutes. It'll still be there when I get back to it. I'm just going to set it aside. So you know what's there? If we can set these judgments, negativity, just have a willingness to do that, just a willingness. You know what's under those layers of things? It's love. And that's not cliche. That's the truth. We're not robots. We're more than our bodies. We did not create ourselves. Much as we would like to believe that, we did not create ourselves. We did not start this whole thing. That was something much greater than our thoughts and our brains, the mechanics of our body. It was God. And God is in all of us. God is in all of us. God is love. God is about love and healing. And we can do this. Baby steps. Baby steps can be huge steps, can be miracles in an instant. But we have to start being accountable about ourselves and about the people in our sphere, in our space. Everything is so busy. We don't have time. We have to slow things down. We have to slow things down. There's that saying, if you see something, do something. Well, do something can mean an act of love, an act of kindness, an act of compassion. But we've got to do something. Yes, there's no denying that this is about guns, in my view. And mental illness is a part of this, in my view. But it's about something much bigger than that. It is about what leads a person to decide that they are going to commit these kind of acts. And what leads a person, 19 law enforcement were outside that classroom door. What is that they're not going inside? That is unbelievable. That is some kind of fear that I cannot comprehend. That is just some kind of fear. What is it about people who receive messages from a gunman, an 18-year-old gunman, talking to other teenage girls, that they don't think that they can respond to some of the things he is saying to them? That they don't think that it matters. It's going to matter to anyone that he is saying the things that he's saying to them. If we don't do something about the way we're going about our lives and the way that we're going about engaging with our family, with our friends, with strangers, I'm scared. But I'm also hopeful because I understand the greatness of God. So let's start healing. Let's start healing. Let's start healing each other. Let's start healing ourselves. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can listen to all of our episodes on traditional podcast platforms. Until next time, let's start healing.